Welcome to Leaping Larry's Revolutionary Reading Theatre.
Right, welcome to the Reading Theatre. Today we're continuing on with a read of On the Juche Philosophy, which we just started yesterday. And today, of course, we're going to be covering the philosophical principle of the Juche idea. Is perhaps the part of it that is most often distorted. I mean, a lot of it, of course, is quite often distorted, but we will see. Allow me. So we're on chapter 2. The last one explained the origins of the Juche idea. Now we're getting into the philosophical principle. The Juche idea is a new philosophical thought which centers on humanity. As I mentioned before, because this is translated into British English, when they mean humanity or mankind, it gets translated to mankind or man. It means, but it's talking about the masses in general. It's talking about humanity as a whole. So whenever it says man, I'm just going to say humanity. And then further as well, it should be understood that in Korean, there is no like gender pronouns. So the whole idea of this somehow referring to men in particular is one that I have seen some people make and is wrong. It's not even referring to individuals other than in a few places which we will get to. The Juche idea is a new philosophical thought which centers on humanity. As the leader said, the Juche idea is based on the philosophical principle that humanity is the master of everything and decides everything. The Juche idea raised the fundamental question of philosophy by regarding humanity as the main factor, and elucidated the philosophical principle that man is the master of everything and decides everything. So what does this mean, you're probably wondering, now that you've heard that statement? Well, that man is the master of everything means that they are master of the world and their own destiny. That humanity decides everything means that they play the decisive role in transforming the world and in shaping their destiny. So, to reiterate from before, as we learned in the previous work in this, as you see, Juche philosophy made it clear that humanity is the master and dominator of the world. It does not assert that the material world itself is centered on humanity. And what the Juche philosophy also expounds is that humanity is the transformer of the world and that the world is reshaped by humanity, not that all changes in the world are brought about by humanity. See, you see? And that's the misinterpretation that many people make. So, that humanity is the master of everything means that they are master of the world and their own destiny. No other being decides our world other than humans, right? And the way that the reactionaries have the world develop in their interests is by capturing the creative power of the masses and directing them to reactionary ends that serve their own interests. The philosophical principle of the Juche idea is the principle of human-centered philosophy, which explains humanity's position and role in the world. In the material world, obviously. The dialectical materialist world that is elucidated by Marx and Lenin, right? The leader made it clear that humanity is a social being with independence, creativity, and consciousness. Humanity, throughout material existence, is not a simple material being. They are the most developed material being, a special product of evolution of the material world. Humanity was already outstanding as they emerge from the world of nature. They exist and develop by cognizing and changing the world to make it serve them, whereas all other material lives maintain their existence through subordination and adaptation to the objective world. I wonder if we still have that There's some sort of command. Wait. Hold on, let me see. I feel like there's a command for this. Oh, of course. The Nightbot is like sleeping on the job over here. There's a command for this because, you know, somebody else talked about this very thing. Kwame Ture. Also previously known as Stokely Carmichael. They also talk about this as well. I'm trying to... I had a thing about it. I thought I had a command for it, but I'm not seeing it yet. There's because he puts it a really good way. I need to like study these dang commands that people are making. I just swore that we had it linked though, didn't we? Intranet, Iskra, that's not it. Juche Gang, no. Mumia Podcast, Malma. Principal. Yeah, I can't remember it either. I'm not like seeing it either. There's the roll commands. We got the Swedish command here. Well, dang, that's disappointing that I can't find it. I guess we don't have it. We used to have a command that linked to the Kwame Ture speech. Yeah, we used to have a command that linked to the Kwame Ture speech because what it talked about was exactly what we're talking about here, which is that humanity, they exist and develop by cognizing and changing the world to make it serve them, whereas all other material lives maintain their existence through their subordination and adaptation to the objective world. And Kwame Ture, he puts it, you know, if you were to take a human being and put them into a situation like where they were being raised by monkeys or wolves or something, if that human baby doesn't scratch itself to death, it would probably grow up and make a contribution to monkey culture or wolf culture, right? Whereas a dog, if it grows up outside of its species, it's still a dog. It acts like a dog. Humanity is the only animal that when it grows up divorced from its other beings, it doesn't act like what we would expect a normal human to be acting like. I wish we could remember it, but yeah, that's the Kwame Ture speech. If you look at it's the one that he gives in what university is it? I kind of want to look and just see if I can figure out what speech it actually is. Yeah, it's this one right here. It's from the full version of this one, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think it's at like the 10-minute marker, but it's on like the full version of this speech. It might be this one, is it?
Beings. Once this is properly understood, the conscious individual, all human beings can only grow up as human beings among other human beings.
Yep, here you go.
By life as an animal. And they produce have not lived like a human being. They have lived life as an animal. Thus, in the first instance, we come to tell you, just as Norman people, that to live a proper life, you must produce more than you consume. We come to tell you that you certainly have a responsibility to your people, not only to your people, but certainly to all of humanity. This can be properly understood just from human beings themselves. No human being can grow to their human potential isolated from other human beings. All human beings can only grow up as human beings among other human beings. Biological facts are clear here. If you take a cat, a kitten, the minute it's born, you take a dog, a puppy, the minute it's born, you take a child, an infant, the minute it's born, and you throw all three in the woods, the puppy will grow up to be a dog. It will walk on all four, it'll bark, it'll love bones. The kitten will grow up to be a cat, it'll walk on all four, it'll meow, it'll love mice. But the child, it's questioned whether or not the child will ever grow up. Why, the child might scratch itself to death, since no one will cut its nails. And one thing is clear, even if the child does survive, the child will be incapable of making any contribution to human society, because that child was not socialized by human society. We can push the point to its logical conclusion. We can say that an animal, a human being separated from the human species, is more stupid than any other animal separated from its species. Let us take the same example of the puppy, the kitten, and the child. Let us throw them to grow up with monkeys. I promise you that this kitten that has never seen a monkey, when it's opened his eyes, it will walk like a cat, it'll meow, it'll chase mice. The dog will do the same thing. It'll walk like a dog, it'll bark, it'll chase bones. But the human being, the child, it will eat monkey food, it will walk like a monkey, it will talk like a monkey. Why, it will even try to make a contribution to monkey culture.
And that's what we're talking about here, with that fundamental difference in the way humanity's mode of existence is from the animal's mode of existence. And that's what we mean when we say, that's what we mean when this says right here, humanity, through material existence, is not a simple material being. He exists and develops by cognizing and changing the world to make it serve them. Whereas all other material lives maintain their existence through their subordination and adaptation to the objective world, just as Kwame Ture highlighted in that talk. Humanity holds a special position and plays a special role as master of the world because they are a social being with independence, creativity, and consciousness. The leader gave a new philosophical conception of humanity by defining independence, creativity, and consciousness as the essential features of humanity, the social being. What we mean by social being is that's what describes exactly what Kwame Ture is talking about. The reason why humanity, if it grows up divorced from human society, grows up and like acts like wolves if it's raised by wolves, or acts like monkeys if it's raised by monkeys, is because humanity's social consciousness exists purely in the social realm. It's not something that's granted from our biology, it's something that's gained through the interaction with other humans, right? And through the course of history, as history develops, that knowledge and that ideological wealth, all that social wealth, enhances and increases, which is why we can go from, making much more like akin to the natural things that we're finding, and just with light refinements of it, like, old stone arrowheads, old stone knives, and eventually lead to much more complex things where we're turning something that barely resembles the raw materials it's made from. More and more complexity. To the point where we're now talking about quantum computing and nanotechnology, So, independence, creativity, and consciousness are these three aspects of our social being. Independence, creativity, and consciousness are humanity's social qualities, and they take shape and develop socially and historically, just as I explained with the example of consciousness. Humanity alone in the world lives and conducts activities in its social relationship in this way. Of course, other animals live in group lives. We know that. There's plenty of animals whose existence relies on group lives. But that's not the same as humanity's social life. And the word social here is used to distinguish that from animals' mode of existence. Remember that with any philosophy, the terminology that you're using in the philosophy can sometimes differ from the general definition of a thing that you're analyzing. For example, perhaps the greatest one, if you're familiar with Marxist-Leninist philosophy, the most well-known example is the word metaphysics, right? If you use the word metaphysics to somebody who's not a Marxist-Leninist or doesn't understand Marxist-Leninist philosophy, they will think that you're talking about a philosophy that comes to explain the world or something like this, right? Whereas when we say metaphysics from a Marxist-Leninist point of view, you know that we're talking about a particular trend of philosophy that sees the world as abstract and disconnected or unchanging and, isolated from each other. But like, so if we just type in here into Google, or I guess Bing, it ends up being for me, we type this in, and when you just type in metaphysics like this, you see what the general definition it gives you is something totally different. And you see dualism, monism. Well, in a Marxist-Leninist framework, you would separate this instead by materialism and idealism, and then maybe two other branches that could show you dialectical and metaphysical, right? Metaphysical is the polar opposite of dialectical, which means to see everything as connected and constantly in motion. They maintain their existence and achieve their aim only socially. Independence, creativity, and consciousness are peculiar to humanity, the social being. So again, with these words, independence, creativity, and consciousness, when we're speaking in terms of Juche, do not share the same meaning as the words independence, creativity, and consciousness when we're talking in general. Of course, there is, some derivation and relation to the meaning of those words, but they have a specific philosophical definition, which we are now going to define, okay? So now let us define independence. Independence is an attribute of social humanity who is desirous of living and developing an independent way as master of the world and their own destiny. On the strength of this quality, humanity throws off the fetters of nature, opposes social subjugation of all forms, and puts everything in their own service. Independence is the life and soul of humanity, the social being. When independence is referred to as humanity's life and soul, it means that social and political integrity. Humanity has a physical life and also social and political integrity. The physical life is what keeps humanity alive as a biological organism. Social and political integrity is what keeps them alive as a social being. Humanity is a being with creativity. That is, a creative social being. Now, let us define creativity in the context of Juche philosophy. Lola Sue, thank you so much for the message on the anniversary of Wounded Knee. I took a long moment of silence this morning before I started. Creativity is an attribute of social man who transforms the world and shapes their destiny purposefully and consciously. By virtue of their creativity, humanity transforms nature and society to be more useful and beneficial to them by changing the old and creating the new. Creativity, like independence, constitutes an essential quality of humanity, the social being. Independence finds its expression mainly in humanity's position as master of the world. And why is it important to recognize this point? Why is it so important for us to understand humanity's ability and position as master of the world? Well, because if we reject that, then what we are doing is rejecting our responsibility to the animal people and to the plant people to actually care for them. It's not just a matter of humanity has to leave them alone. It's that humanity has a responsibility to tend to the earth and make sure that it's as healthy as it can be. That's the mission because humanity has that ability to transform the world. This is something, by the way, that Sue can tell you. This is something that Sue can tell you that, yes, we are also the ecosystem. So it is very important for us to maintain it for that reason as well, but also as tenders of the earth. And I think Sue will be able to tell you here in chat that First Nations people, before colonization, of course, that's exactly what they did. A lot of people, and that's why terra nullius, one reason why terra nullius is such bullshit claim, because First Nations people weren't just here doing nothing. The land wasn't just empty. There was huge mass burns. There was moving of herds. There was planting of various crops, but in the wild, that we knew would help the wild forests survive better. Right? There was planting there in places where trees were growing too much of one kind. You would plant trees of a different kind so as to mitigate the risk of forest fires. And when too much old brush existed in an area, there would be controlled burns. Right? So First Nations people, it wasn't terra nullius. I mean, in nowhere you looked in North America, it was empty. Everywhere had the efforts of First Nations people caring for the earth, recognizing the position of humanity put here by in a lot of First Nation spirituality, like Mi'kmaq, put here by the Creator for that very reason, to be custodians of the earth. And this is what is taught. This was what was taught hundreds and hundreds of years before colonialism even came. So we already understood this, and that's because our religion is based on the science of this knowledge already, right? What DPRK has done is basically brought the science back, and that's one thing why I really like Juche. It brings that science back in a way that at the same time is critiquing the leftover bourgeois white European leftovers in Marxist-Leninist philosophy. It critiques that. It critiques the misinterpretations, the leftovers of bourgeois philosophy in Marxism itself, and re-emerges with like all of these the spirituality that we had. Yeah, that's why I don't say religion, Lasso. I say spirituality. And spirituality is just a reflection of one's ideological position, right? Like spirituality does not mean necessarily religion. It doesn't have to mean that. And we can actually say that like the social life could be considered a spiritual life in many senses, right? Because as I said before, we have our material life. That's my body. This is my body. This is my material life. But my consciousness, the part of me that is speaking to you right now, the part of me that is communicating with you, and the part of me that is desirous of all humans living independently as masters of their own destiny, is the social aspect of me, right? And that is, while my body makes that social aspect possible, this social aspect of me has come from interacting with all the people I have in my life, and from my education and all of that. It didn't emerge just from this body alone, you know? I feel it's easy to misunderstand this reading. When I read it with others, they get hung up on humanity is the master of the environment and manipulates it for his benefit. But I mean, that's not what it says, right? But yeah, because of the assumptions that are made, that it sounds exploitative because of the world we live in. Because white people hear the word master, and of course, being colonialist, they think of master in terms of like colonialism. But what master means when you're talking about master of your own destiny, you're just talking about you're the director of your own destiny. When we're referring to master inwardly, like when you're talking about being humanity being the master of humanity, you know, it makes perfect sense. Like all you have to, that's why that's why when I'm talking about this with you, you have to realize that when we're doing Juche, right, we don't have to use the same language. We don't have to use all this same terminology, and we don't have to use all these same words. We have to understand the science behind it and what it's elucidating to us, and be able to, if we're going to be really successful with it, like Kwame Ture did, put it into our own words. I'm here teaching you the baseline of it. And my hope is, and one reason why I go off on big rants while I'm reading this to you, is my hope is that you will then be able to go out and put it into your own words. and help people understand not only Juche, but Marxism, Leninism better as well, or just scientific socialism in general, however you want to term it, right? Okay, sorry. Maybe you need something to eat, do you? Well, do you want make something to eat? Or I'll make you something. There's like there's stuff in there you can throw in the oven. You want me to make you something, let me know. Sorry about that. Yeah, well, muffin's not gonna fill you up. You need something. Sounds like you're just. It sounds like your eating would probably at least help you. Oh yeah, NTC, and that's that absolutely. Actually, if you interesting that you mentioned that NTC because if you look back at older translations, if you go back to older translations of this, you'll find that it's not translated as independence, but it's actually translated as Chaju song, which was something like a little bit more complex than independence. But because it ended up, they felt that like not enough people were grasping this other word, or they were having to like figure out what Chaju song meant. They decided to just change it to independence. But again, that's why I hope like you can go among people like what Kwame Ture did and be able to explain it yourself. It's like personal self determination, but also the desire to be independent from all fetters, right? The desire to not have fetters restrict humanity. Yeah, I agree, Lasu. Which is why which is why I do spend a lot of time talking about this philosophy in general. Again, first the thing that first got me into this philosophy, funnily enough, is comrades of mine from Navajo Nation. So, oh yeah, I found the Kwame Ture quote thing. Well, it should be here in my history. But look, here's the link to the Kwame Ture thing. I'll move it back to 10 minutes as well. I'll just link this so people can like get an idea of how another way you can phrase exactly what was being said about humanity being the master or the social being. No problem, Cinnamon. That's why I want to talk to people about this. It's a very much misunderstood philosophy that at the end of the day, like I say, I think makes important contributions because it's analyzing the social aspect, which is what humanity is. So now let's define consciousness in terms of Juche philosophy. So consciousness is an attribute of social humanity, which determines all their endeavors to understand and reshape the world and themselves. Because they have consciousness, humanity understands the world and the laws of its motion and develops, reshapes, and advances nature and society as they desire. Consciousness guarantees the independence and creativity of humanity, the social being, and ensures their purposeful cognition and practice. Yeah, well, that's and what you're referring to this back before or split up into these various like sectioned off into these various European ideologies, communism, anarchism, socialism, whatever. We could say that the this again, this is the reemergence of like getting rid of that, and what we're for is Juche. And that's why one of the beautiful conclusions of this is that people can build a communist society, what we call a communist society, which, if you want to know how we define communism here, okay, so the way to reach a communist society, you don't have to read Marx. You don't have to have studied Marx and Lenin and Engels, because it's a science and it's a thing that humanity strives for. As long as you're guided by collectivist working class ideology, as long as the masses are guided by that ideology, they inherently want to build a collectivist communist society, which is why there is no such thing as a third road. There is capitalism, exploitation, or there is independence, socialism, communism, etc. However you want to term the ideal society for humanity without exploitation. Independence, creativity, and consciousness, after all, are what enables humanity to be superior to any other being and be the most powerful being in the world. So, again, superior here doesn't mean as in it should dominate all other beings. It means that humanity does have the ability to affect the lives of every other material being in the world. And because of that, they have to understand that position. And here, this is the most important part. This sentence right here. To approach the world, not fatalistically, right? Which is the if you're interpreting superior, as I just explained, you're interpreting the world fatalistically. So, not to approach the world not fatalistically, but revolutionarily. Not passively, but actively. And to reshape the world not blindly, but purposefully and consciously. Right? With forward thinking. With knowing the impact our actions are going to have. You see, that's the important part of this. You can only have two types of economic systems. One where everything is shared with everyone, and one where everything is shared with some. Love that. See? And that's what Kwame does it. Like, honestly, Kwame does it, and there's a reason for that, because the Black Panther Party did go to DPRK and study Juche and thought, holy shit. But I'm just a revolutionary for the vibes. Oh, yes, that's me. That is definitely me. Thank you, Sebs, for boiling down to a really understandable degree for everybody there. That's really helpful. Thanks. But see, this part is so important. Like the independence, creativity, superior, and the most powerful being in the world. To approach the world not fatalistically but revolutionary, not passively but actively, and to reshape the world not blindly but purposefully and consciously. Humanity, the social being who has independence, creativity, and consciousness, is precisely the only dominator and remaker of the world. Oh, I didn't see it. Okay, I didn't. Yeah, she's doing all. Yeah, she's doing fine. Yeah, good. I pet her every night and every morning. I clean out her litter box every day. It'll be good for her to get over that problem. Yeah, I love that sentence. I think that's a great, well, paragraph, I guess. Yeah. Humanity, the social being who has independence, creativity, and consciousness, is precisely the only dominator and remaker of the world. So let us recognize that position. Humanity cannot, of course, live outside the world. They live and conduct their activity in the world. Nature is the object of humanity's labor, and also the material source of their life. Society is a community where people live and conduct activities. Natural environments and social conditions have a great effect on human activity. whether natural environments are good or bad, and in particular, whether the political and economic systems of a society are progressive or reactionary, these factors may favorably affect human endeavor to remake nature and develop society, or limit and restrict that activity. I'm a communist so I can date hot commie people. It's working, y'all. So what you're saying is that with great power comes great responsibility. Yes. And I'm also saying that we live in a society. But humanity does not merely adapt themselves to environments and conditions. By their independent creativity and conscious activity, humanity continuously transforms nature and society, changing as they desire what does not meet their need, and replacing what is outdated and reactionary with what is new and progressive. This is humanity's endeavor and struggle to change and transform the world into one that serves humanity better. So, our desire to change this society from a reactionary, exploitive one into one that is progressive is an expression of our endeavor to transform the world into one that better serves us. We live in a society, people! Fuck the demagogues! And so on. You know? The Juche idea established a human-centered outlook on the world by throwing a fresh light on the essential characteristics of humanity and their position and role in the world. It had already been known, thanks to Marxism-Leninism, it had already been known that the world consists of material and changes and develops as a result of the motion of material. The Juche idea gives a new world outlook by answering the question of who is the master that dominates nature and society, and where is the force that transforms them. That the world is dominated and reshaped by humanity is a new viewpoint on the world in relation to humanity. The Juche idea shows a new viewpoint and attitude to the world on the basis of humanity's position and role as master of the world. The viewpoint and attitude to the world shown by the Juche idea are those with which the world is approached by focusing on humanity, the master of the world. Taking a human-centered attitude towards the world means approaching the world from the viewpoint and interests of humanity, the master of the world. And by the way, I'm going to explain to you in a second that this is a different... So what we're saying here that the world is dominated and reshaped by humanity is a new viewpoint on the world in relation to man, is a new viewpoint in comparison with classical historical materialism. It's not saying that historical materialism is wrong, but it's saying that historical materialism allowed us to understand these things. Now let us have an improved analysis of social history by focusing on humanity. And as I mentioned before, they're not the only ones to have noticed this. As I've read on this channel many times before, the Black Panther Party is a Marxist-Leninist party because we follow the dialectical method and we integrate theory with practice. We are not mechanical Marxists and we are not historical materialists. Some people think they are following the thoughts of Hegel. Some people think they are Marxists when they're actually following the thoughts of Hegel. Some people think they are Marxist-Leninists, but they refuse to be creative and are therefore tied to the past. They're tied to a rhetoric that does not apply to the present set of conditions. They are tied to a set of thoughts that approaches dogma, what we call flunkyism. And again, it simply is the fact that historical materialism is right. Historical materialism taught us a lot of good things, right? But historical materialism also leaves a lot to be interpreted in regards particularly to the social aspects of society. So what we can do Yeah, I mean, mechanical Marxism is an oxymoron, but we can cry about it being an oxymoron all we want, and the fact of the matter is, it's still a very serious problem that is prevalent in every single Western Communist Party, especially settler parties. So, like, we can say that it's an oxymoron all we want, but the fact of the matter is, um, yeah, the fact of the matter is, exactly, with historical materialism, it leaves a lot left to be interpreted, especially, like I say, because, and the reason for this is because historical materialism is really examining the, it's really examining the things, it's really examining those things in common with material laws. So it's examining social phenomenon that happens to be activated by material law, which of course is the case because society itself exists in the material world. However, what the limitation of historical materialism is that it leaves a lot to be interpreted in regards to social laws and social phenomenon that aren't necessarily explained inherently by examining the material law that's acting on society. Because the thing about society and human consciousness and all this that we should know by now is that it's not just a simple reflection of the material conditions. That humanity's consciousness causes it to play a positive role, right? Of course, the material conditions make possible certain ideas and certain things, but humanity's positive activity is the thing that then pushes forward that material change. So we could say it's like a chicken and an egg situation, but like but it's not that simple, right? And humanity's ideological consciousness plays an important role in actually changing the material, in actually causing material changes. I just call those things, but see, but it's not like, and this is the thing, like human consciousness material? No, it's not. Human consciousness is not material. Because if human consciousness was material, that would mean that it would be granted to us by our biology alone, right? But the only way, as Kwame Ture and others point out, the only way we can get human consciousness is by interacting socially. So clearly, material alone does not explain all phenomena and development in human society because of this social aspect. And while the material laws do act on the social realm, of course, because the social realm and society exists in the material world, there are still laws that are unique to the social aspect alone. And again, the big one is looking at the difference between, like what Kwame Ture explained there, the way that a human baby and a kitty baby, a cat baby develops, right? Like that right there is your proof of these two different things. There's two different realities. We have the material reality and we have a social reality. Yeah. Okay. What? Okay. I'm almost done this chapter. Yeah, and and honestly, Cinnamon, that is how a lot of Marxists mean. That's how a lot of Marxists mean it. But yeah, that's the thing. Material means the material, the physical world, right? And social, we could. That's why I say you could think of social as also being like spiritual as well, because it's your ideas, the all of this, right? Humanity's collective ideas and humanity's knowledge and all of these things. They exist in the social realm. Humanity's desire to live independently exists in that social realm. So yeah, there's the material and then there's the social reality, and that's why DPRK says that it's very important when we have achieved socialism that the revolution doesn't end. and that there is actually three revolutions, right? We have the technological revolution, which you could be thought of as like the material revolution, the thing to improve our ability to eat, to have clothes on our backs, the thing that improves humanity's material lives. But then the other two aspects of revolution we have is the ideological revolution, which is to change humanity's outlook from individualism to collectivism, etc. And then you have the cultural revolution, which is connected, of course, to the ideological revolution, and is changing humanity's morality and culture into one that is more conducive of that collectivist society, right? So notice, in these three revolutions, no, not Trotskyist. I explained what Trotsky's permanent revolution is, and it has nothing to do with it has nothing to do with continuous revolution. Permanent revolution simply means that white Europeans are gonna forge the revolution for everybody else. That's what permanent revolution is. Continuous revolution is the knowledge that socialism is itself the revolution, and that revolution must continue until we achieve communist society. And even then, maybe the revolution will have to continue. We'll see. So, just take note of that though. In the three types of revolutions, notice that two of them are in the social realm. Right? And that doesn't deny the importance of the technological revolution. But what Juche realizes, what Juche figures out, is that the ideological revolution is the most important part of the revolution. And this is something that Marxists will not get into their heads. Settlers hate this for some reason, right? They hate thinking about this. They don't want to accept this. And in fact, when you try and tell them this, most often they will look at you and say, that's idealism. Which shows that they also have no idea what the hell idealism even means. I'll just point out. Reveals they don't know what idealism means. Because like, what it figures out, of course, is that even in, and this explains the mistake that Marx and Engels first made.
One motherfucker for all motherfuckers everywhere, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, thank you, Here Drink This, for the gift sub to Cinnamon Challenge. Thank you, comrade. That means a ton. Thank you, thank you. It's because settlers don't like thinking. Period. Dot. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's it, and that's the thing. Absolutely. See, Marx and Engels, let's not forget, Marx and Engels, they thought revolution would break out, as we know, in the most advanced capitalist countries first, right? Because that's where the contradictions of capitalism would be the worst, and therefore that would be the most compelling place for revolution to break out. But that's not the case. And the Russian Revolution was the first thing that demonstrated this. And then every other revolution that has occurred has never occurred in an advanced, developed capitalist state. Oh, so Marx and Engels were wrong about that. Because you see, it wasn't just the material. It was the ideological factor. And even Lenin, of course, he made a great contribution by saying where the chain of imperialism is the weakest is where revolution is most likely to break out. But even that is a little bit inaccurate. And even in places where the chain of imperialism is strong and where it's focusing on can achieve revolution, if the revolutionary forces are prepared enough. And what prepares the revolutionary forces? Ideological education and the willingness of enormous amounts of people to accept some degree of revolution. And we, of course, always start by focusing on the democratic revolution, which is that's the first step, right? So the most important factor in revolution is the ideological factor. And the reason why DPRK had to figure this out was because they came under a situation whereby not like the sanctions, yes, of course, but even before the sanctions, you had the USSR who was essentially trying to force them into a colonial style relationship whereby the USSR would get raw material from Korea and other less developed socialist countries, and it would make the final goods and sell them back to them. That sound like anything else to you? And you see, DPRK was like, no, we're not going to do that. In fact, what we're going to do instead is we're going to develop our heavy industry and our medium industry at the same time we're developing our light industry. So that was an important thing. Really didn't get the idea you ignore the social when I read Stalin, but I'll have to read it a third and fourth time. I mean, but I didn't really get the idea you ignore the social when I read Stalin, but that's the thing, Sentiment. Stalin was not ignoring the social. He was incorporating, although he does have a couple works. Hold on. He does have a couple works, but Stalin was one of the ones who was interpreting it from a correct viewpoint. Even more correct when it came to the national question than Lenin. And the reason for that, the reason why that is the case is because I mean, I think you all know what I'm gonna say. The reason why I think Stalin was correct on that was because he had a colonial perspective. Right? Stalin was one who experienced life under colonialism. And even though Stalin didn't, and Stalin, let's remember, Stalin didn't develop his own theory. He was really, so what Stalin was really doing was, without even realizing it perhaps, was adding a very important social analysis in the way he explained Leninism to be really understandable for everybody, right? But Stalin was calling for somebody to make a new theory in his last work before, who knows how he died, right? But in his last work, he was saying that the USSR absolutely needs new theory pertaining to the new conditions because Marxism, Leninism, as it existed, and the economic means of analysis as they existed were not explaining the new conditions under socialism. And because of the de-Stalinization campaign, that work was just whatever. Nobody took that work seriously. It was published and then essentially forgotten about. So I mean, this is why I tell people that reading. That's why I tell people to read Stalin like first. But Stalin, he does have one work called Dialectical Materialism that is that way a little bit. That does get into some sort of some of the realm of what you would call like an analysis that is trying to explain history from the point of view of just what it has in relation to the material world. And I think there is some limitations in that work. Maybe one day we'll read it and talk about it. Let me fill my water while we're on this ad break. I appreciate all you subbies, by the way. Thank you for your support. I'm imagining the day we read that and I understand it really well enough to explain to other people. Damon, you're doing good. You're one person I definitely notice works hard to think critically and scientifically about things, and I appreciate you, Cinnamon. That's why you got that VIP badge. Seb's got the VIP badge because, well, just purely badass. You're 100% unadulterated badassery. That's why. Mm.
And now they are the Republican Party. Hardcore Trotskyites. Hardcore. They give you the Patriot Act, everything else. I mean, we're in deep trouble. We are in deep, 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 deep trouble. And I only wish Stalin would have got all of them. I got to be quite honest. Trotsky, these people, that's some bold statement there. Back over.
I wish Stalin would have got all of them. Cinnamon Challenge is awesome. We love you, Cinnamon. The one time Alex Jones was right. That's why I don't have a VIP badge. My ass is too good. I don't know, Redisby. I think you should try typing again in the chat. Oh, what are you talking about, Redisby? You got a pink diamond right there. I don't know. Looks like you got a pink diamond to me, comrade. You get a VIP badge. Look under your chair. Plus, Cinnamon Challenge has a great appreciation for the Red Wing Soviet lineup, and let's not forget, I don't think I've seen Cinnamon miss one Trailer Park showing, which we do right there if you're interested in. Oh my goodness! Holy shit! Well, thank you, I Dan Simpson for the raid. Fuck, 2 in a row. Damn, comrade, thank you so much. Very much appreciate that.
Long live the People's Revolution!
I hope you're well today, comrade. I'll fucking do it again if you make me. Thank you, comrade. I feel honored. God damn. If you don't know, I'm gonna be on iDan's stream on what did we say? Thursday. I'm gonna be on iDan's stream on Thursday, and it's gonna be at 1 p.m. CAC. Oh, it's gonna be at 11 a.m. pirate time. I'm on. We go by pirate time on my channel here, Dan. So that's 11 a.m. pirate time, which is, of course, as you know, noon Eastern. Hey, Rylan, welcome. Hope you're well. We're reading on the Juche philosophy. We're pretty much nearing the end of it. Wait. I'm waiting. What am I waiting for? It's 2 p.m. Eastern? Wait, 1 p.m. Oh yeah, wait. You're saying, okay, wait a sec. I did the math backwards. Okay, hold up then. Hold up a second. I did the math backwards. That's right. I'm the one in the future. Forgot. I forgot I'm the one in the future. Okay, well, hey, hang on a second then. Yeah, that's right. I'm the one in the future. Damn, how could I forget that? Okay, look, math has never been my strong suit. Yeah, maybe we'll change the time then, Dan. You said noon, which will be 2 o'clock for me. Yeah, no, noon. Yeah, no. Noon works fine for me. That'll be 2 o'clock my time. So what I will do is I will raid you, Dan. Because I should have been already streaming from... I'll be streaming from around 10:30 a.m. Pirate time. So yeah, then once we're ready, I'll just raid you. Noon, 1 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pirate time. Perfect. Yes, exactly. So there you go. We'll raid Dan, Cinnamon. So if you're here, you don't even gotta worry. I'll make sure that you get to Dan's. Any of my comrades who were in the chat that day, I'll make sure you get to Dan's to watch our discussion. It should be a banger. I already said one of the interesting topics that is going to be discussed on it is was the USSR land back? Was the Russian Revolution land back? Nope. Pirate time is Atlantic time. Because you see, everybody in the US, the reason why we call it pirate time, everybody in the US, like the most eastern time zone that you'll get is Eastern, right? Me, I'm dangling out here in the middle of the dang ocean. So I'm on pirate time. I'm on or I guess it's officially Atlantic Standard Time or Atlantic Daylight Savings Time, depending on what time of the year it is. But really, it's pirate time. Exactly. Green onions or green onion? Green onion. I'm gonna go with green onion. All right. We're finishing up of this. We're finishing up this this read right here. I think. Oh, we're almost near the end. I like growing green onion a lot. And then I think we're gonna look at this one another time. So I'm gonna remove that for now, and we're gonna start this when I go smoke a joint. And then we'll have some time for video games after. Hey, lesbian hot sauce. Welcome back. Growing green sounds dope. I do that too. It's legal here after all. You know? We're just about to try hydro for the first time. Very excited to try growing some hydro. We have been doing we've been doing the dirt thing up until now, like the dirt in the house. Which, you know, it's been fine. It's okay. I feel like with hydro, though, I'm going to be able to get those buds even tighter. Hydro is you don't use any soil. It's a soilless method of growing marijuana or other plants. You can do it with a lot of other plants as well, but it's a method of just using water, basically, of not having dirt as a medium. What it can do is it can allow you to get much bigger, tighter buds. So I'm very interested to try it, and I have the thing that starts them right out from of course, I'll start them from clones. It was a mistake for most of them. Well, I'm gonna try my best. We'll see. Oh, your house plants. Okay. Some high pressure sodium bulbs. Old school hydro. Yeah. Yeah, that is... Yeah, I've already got the thing, though, for, like, the clones that keeps their root system, like, moist all the time. It's like a little machine. So that you don't, instead of using, like, the rock wool medium, which is what we do right now, is we've been using rock wool and then switching to soil up until now. Now we're going to be doing hydro. I'm very excited to smoke it. We'll see what happens. I will report back to you on it. And yeah, so let's continue. Let's finish up our work here. Yeah, I can grow 4 plants per household. 4 plants per person, 8 per household, whatever it is. Yeah. See, you might be in a different grow zone than me, Sis Cat. I would love to grow outside, but the only like feasible way to grow outside here is to basically have an autoflower plant, which means that regardless of the sunlight it gets, it goes into flower by itself. Greenhouse is an option. Yes. Yes, a greenhouse would be an option. But yeah, it gets yeah, we have thought about trying greenhouse before. Yeah, it gets rough trying to grow here in the
I would love a green.
Oh yeah, you're in Oregon. Yeah, we would love a greenhouse. My
Please.
fiance says.
Unheated so I can grow orange, lemon, lime.
My fiance says if you send her a greenhouse, she'll grow oranges and limes. She says if you
We could do cannabis all year. Hi, baby.
Well yeah, that's what we would do. Lots of cannabis. My fiance and I this weekend, if you tune into my stream this weekend, we're gonna be I might try and stream this. Try and stream this weekend. With
with
you,
me?
yeah.
Yeah, we're
On
gonna
my
play at
phone.
my mom's house.
Yeah, well, I'll stream from my phone.
Or cheese. I open.
Yeah.
Nasty.
What?
Liquid all in the bottom. And it is funky as fuck.
We'll take it back.
Yeah, it's fishy cheese. Buster wouldn't even eat it.
Okay, well, no, don't feed it to Buster, for God's
Buster
sake.
walked up to it.
Okay. Yeah,
Nasty cheese.
take that back to Sobeys. Yeah, take that back to Sobeys. I got that for sandwiches. I have an apartment. Wish I had a yard so I could grow stuff. Well, yeah. That's proud about that. Yeah, I'm almost done. Okay, let's finish the reading. Let me finish the reading so I can go smoke a joint. Fiance's getting impatient. Okay, approaching the world by focusing on humanity means dealing with the change and development of the world mainly on the basis of the activity of humanity who transforms it. Remember, the recognition that humanity is the being that transforms the world is not prescriptive, is not a prescriptive thing. It's descriptive of humanity. And as I mentioned before, this is something that First Nations people have realized long before even colonization. And that is why First Nations people, of course, tended the earth and improved the earth, right? We have to recognize our ability to transform and change the world, and also that we're the only ones capable of transforming ourselves and waging revolution, right? Like, we have to understand this position that we have in order to actually develop a sustainable way. So, humanity is the most powerful being in the world, and humanity alone is capable of transforming the world. It is humanity, and none other, that requires its transformation and performs this work. Humanity acts upon and transforms the world as they desire, drawing on the objective laws. And that is, as they desire as a collective. What gives the bourgeoisie so much power is that they misdirect the efforts and the creativity of humanity, the collective of humanity, and they misdirect it towards means and things that interest them as individualist and class society. And this is done, of course, by making capital supreme, right? Remember, in a capitalist society, it's not really the capitalists who rule so much as it is capital. And capital even rules the capitalists, right? Now, that doesn't mean that people from undesirable classes can become revolutionary, but they have to prove that through their own practice, of course. Humanity acts upon and transforms the world as they desire, drawing on the objective law. So, how do we transform the world? Well, this very short sentence really tells it all, you know? By understanding the objective laws of development, by understanding the objective material laws, like through an analysis of material reality like Marxism-Leninism, and through science, through the science of energy or conservation, we can come to transform the world and transform our productive capabilities and also transform our social organization. So humanity coming to know that we living in a reactionary, exploitative, oppressive society is what allows humanity to then work and towards that new kind of society, right? And in the objective world, it's the same way. We come to build dams and stuff by understanding like conservation of energy and stuff like this. The world is changed for the benefit of humanity only by their energetic activity. For this reason, it is absolutely correct viewpoint and attitude on the world to approach its change and development from the standpoint of humanity's positive activity, to transform nature and society purposefully and consciously to meet their own desire. The Juche viewpoint and attitude to the world are truly revolutionary in that they enable humanity to transform the world and shape their destiny independently, creativity, and consciously, with a high degree of awareness that they are the masters of the world and their own destiny. Well, it's that Magyar guy. It's that humans have a tendency to misinterpret domination of nature as something that is inherently bad, right? Domination of nature doesn't necessarily have to be inherently bad, but we have to recognize that we have the ability to dominate nature so that we take responsibility and to do it in a way that is sustainable, not just for us, but for the diversity of life that we ultimately rely on for existence. As history advances, humanity's position and role as master of the world is strengthened, and the extent of people's domination over the world increases daily through their independent, creative, and conscious struggle. Exactly, lesbian hot sauce. We actually even said that already. In our time, the masses of the people have emerged as true masters of the world in places like DPRK, Cuba, Vietnam, for example. And through their struggle, the world is being changed more and more to serve the masses. And I would go further and say places where you see liberation struggles breaking out, like in Africa, you see that process taking shape. The masses trying to gain control of their own destiny, right? Today, the position and role of masses of the people as masters of the world are becoming stronger than ever before. This reality proves more patently the validity and vitality of the principle of the Juche philosophy that humanity is the master of everything and decides everything. And just because we have some new people, I will reiterate what that does not mean. That does not mean Juche philosophy made it clear that humanity is the master and dominator of the world, but it does not assert that the material world itself is centered on humanity. And what the Juche philosophy also expounds is that humanity is the transformer of the world, and that the world is reshaped by humanity, not that all changes in the world are brought about by humanity. See? Well, we are not masters of the universe yet. We are barely masters of our own lives yet. I mean, we're not at all masters. I say barely, but I guess even that's an exaggeration. We're not even the masters of our own lives yet, right? The stage that we are at here in the West is we are at that stage of struggle where we are trying to become masters of our own destiny. But a lot of things stand in the way, like Pat sucks. who I recommend you check out iDan's YouTube video about on his channel. He did a discussion with Matthew Hunter, I believe the name was. Did a discussion with Matthew Hunter on PatSox. And that's a good example of someone standing in the way of us trying to materialize this independence by obfuscating and distorting scientific socialism. Revising it, as you could say. Engaging in revisionist activity against Marxism-Leninism is one way you could phrase it. So the next time we read, we will be getting into the socio-historical principles of the Juche idea. This chapter is broken down into several parts when we get to it next time, such as the masses of the people are the subject of social history, and it will explain what that means. Now, what this next section is going to be all about is about that new, what I described to you earlier. The socio-historical principles of Juche are really about that new analysis of social history from the Juche standpoint that is meant to give us an improved understanding of social history than what historical materialism alone is able to do. And as I reiterate that DPRK isn't the only one who has noticed certain limitations in historical materialism. Allow me to refer you to my favorite quote from Huey Newton here, where he says the Black Panther Party is a Marxist-Leninist party because we follow the dialectical method and we also integrate theory with practice. That's the dialectical method. That's the method of dialectical materialism. And this doesn't negate the analysis of dialectical materialism either. We are not mechanical Marxists and we are not historical materialists. Some people think they are Marxists when they are actually following the thoughts of Hegel. Some people think they are Marxist-Leninists, but they refuse to be creative and are therefore tied to the past. They are tied to a rhetoric that does not apply to the present set of conditions. They are tied to a set of thoughts that approaches dogma, what we call flunkyism. And this same flunkyism that he's describing here is exactly what the PatSox do with Marxism-Leninism in order to try and improve their positions. Now, the reason why I say PatSoc is not just a problem online is because, you know what else suffers from the same problem? The major parties in the West, unfortunately. Now, chapters and individual cells, local chapters, local cells, I don't deny that they can do some fantastic work, and they absolutely do. And I don't deny that there's people who are probably in both of those parties, or any of those Western parties, who are trying to work to change the leadership and the party program and stuff like this into something that is better. But as these parties exist right now, the leadership and the party programs have lots of problems that are based on this same thing, on dogma and flunkyism. And a lot of it, if you don't know, is a hangover from the anti-Stalin campaign started by Khrushchev, who, as I explained before, was likely a Trotskyist, or at least the same mentality of a Trotskyist, which is, of course, is just Euro-white colonialism, the mentality that the Western Russian people in the Russian Empire were more civilized and more able to do revolution than the more Eastern people in the Russian Empire, who were subjects of Russian imperialism and colonialism, and therefore less able to wage revolution. This is the way that Trotsky thought about Stalin, and I firmly believe that's the way Khrushchev also thought about Stalin as well. So yeah, next time we read, we're going to be on this chapter. So we're going to be learning about the new view of social history that can be used by you to better your understanding of historical materialism and scientific socialism in general.